I had the idea for this video so long ago, but I never had time to research about Hatsune Miku. But now I do. So I would like to mention that I had to log into my university ID to access some of the sources for Hatsune Miku, which is funny. Anyways, onto the video. Okay, you must be thinking, what credentials do you have, could you possibly have, to talk about such a topic? Well, I'm doing a classics major. Yeah, and I have 50 hours in Hatsune Miku Project Diva, and I've been in some extreme songs and one extra extreme song, okay? Also, heads up, the sources I use for Alexander are not contemporary, as there are no surviving sources from Alexander's time period, but there are sources who use the contemporary sources in their own text, if you get what I mean. Which is kind of funny, kind of sad, given how Alexander had writers along his journey to memorialize his deeds, but all those texts are lost. Anyways, each source has their own biases and goals. I myself have none of those, so don't worry. Okay, now actually onto the video. When diving into such an important figure and Alexander the Great, how will we breach such a topic? How could we possibly compare these two completely different figures to one another? Well, I set up various categories and criteria, and we'll see in the end who has the most tallies. Firstly, let's talk about the etymology of the two figures. Break it down to the barest of their characters. According to the journal article, Hatsune Miku, an uncertain image, Hatsune Miku's name roughly translates to mean the first sound of the future, which is pretty cool as it embodies Miku's impact and role in the world. Alexander, on the other hand, is not a unique name. I had 3 people in my 3rd grade class named Alexander, so we should refer to them with the letter of their last name too. Although I guess his name is also Alexandros, and maybe his name may mean defender of the people or protector of men or the man who repels enemies, which, etymologically speaking, is pretty cool. If it didn't add up to the name Alexander. Well, Alexander the Great was the 3rd one to have the name Alexander, although in the ancient world, they rotated through 5 names, I swear to God, and the kings and queens definitely were not creative thinkers. I'm looking at you. I'm looking at all the Ptolemies right there. There's Alexander number 1, which was the Macedonian king in the first half of the 5th century BCE. He sided with the Persians against the Greeks in the Persian Wars, but also at the same time pretend to be a friend of the Greeks. The Macedonians didn't really consider themselves Greeks, but Alexander numero uno tried to change that by creating a whole fictional account of his family's descendants from Hercules. He also tried to participate in the Olympics, and well, he didn't really get the outlook he was looking for, but yeah. Skip a couple of Macedonian kings, and then you get Alexander number 2, who became king, but then was booted out by his friend, and then was able to get back to the throne with the help of thieves. And then he sent, some hostages to solidify that alliance, and then things happened, yada yada yada, he was stabbed in the back. Anyways, those were the other 2 Alexanders. And those 2 were struggling, and so is Macedonia. Anyways, now to our Alexander. Alexander number 3. He earned his epithet Megas, which means great, when he conquered the Persian Empire and became the king of the kings, which is, I'll admit, a pretty cool title. A lot of dynastic rulers will use that epithet themselves to connect themselves to him, but that's a different story. Okay. I think I rambled on about history too much when I should be looking at etymology, but segue to the next part. Are they self-made? A pretty funny category given how Hatsune Miku was made by people, because she doesn't actually exist. But I don't mean it in a literal sense, but in the did they make a name for themselves by themselves? And well, controversial take, but Alexander the Great was made somebody by his dad, Philip of Macedon, while Hatsune Miku was the beginning and the moment. Let me explain, okay? Just let me explain. I know Hatsune Miku was not the first Vocaloid. The Vocaloid software began in March 2000 with Yamaha releasing the Vocaloid software in which then the first two Vocaloids were Lola and Leon, and they were created by Zero G Limited. However, these two Vocaloids, according to Word, were originally intended to serve as backup vocals for existing singers such as Jay-Z or Justin Timberlake. Which is a little hard to believe, but okay. A few months after the release of Leon and Lola, the Japanese company Krypton Future Media released the Vocaloids Meiko in 2004 and Kaito in 2006 for the Japanese market. These Vocaloids, unlike Zero G Limited, had character illustrations to them and were influential in Krypton's decisions to release a second generation of Vocaloid in 2007, which featured Hatsune Miku. If you want to go back even further, then the concept of a singing computer started in 1961, when a mainframe computer was programmed by 3 Bell Laboratory employees to sing the song Daisy Bell. Moreover, the history of virtual idols can be traced back to Japan in 1996, with the first virtual personality being Kyoko Date, and later in 1997 with Yuki Terai, and many more, according to the scholar Linke Lee. Hell, even the Oxford Handbook of Music and Virtuality presents parallels between Vocaloids and the much older theatrical practice of bunraku, which is a form of puppet theater. The argument then is that although these virtual idols and Vocaloids did enjoy to some degree widespread success within the anime subculture of Japan, they never broke into the mainstream like Miku did. Thus, for Miku, she was the first internationally recognized virtual idol of the 21st century. The turning point for virtual idols happened with the release of Hatsune Miku by Krypton Future Media, as seen in KZ Live Tune's song Tell Your World featuring Hatsune Miku, which debuted at number 1 on Japan's iTunes ranks when it was released in 2012. Thus, although she was not the first Vocaloid or virtual idol, she was the beginning of this new culture. She is her. She is the moment. Now looking at Alexander, I, for one, think you cannot fully understand who Alexander the Great was without looking at his father, Philip of Macedon. For context, Macedon in this time period was pretty isolated and did not have a lot of contact with other Macedonian tribes or the outside world, aka the Greeks. There was Upper Macedon and Lower Macedon, and the Macedons were practically like hillbillies. Although they had a lot of natural resources, there were no shortage of regional tribe competition. For centuries, Macedonian kings had struggled with territorial agreements with its neighboring tribes. King Amyntas, the father of Philip, suffered a series of defeats such as the loss of Pella to the Olynthians, and when Philip succeeded the throne, Macedon was struggling with the Illyrians and the Paeonians, pillaging their territory, and had lost more than 4,000 men in battle, with the rest of the population heavily demoralized. Simultaneously, there were succession threats from Pausanias and Argaeus, who was backed up by the Athenians, and, well, it was just internal instability all around. Philip displayed his political and military prowess as a quote, "He put an end to some threats by offering of peace and bought off others, but attacked such of his enemies as seemed easiest to be subdued." Philip was the founder of Macedonia as a great power. He strengthened the power of the monarchy, created a centrally ruled state, and by reforming the army, expanding external policies, and having a clever policy of marriage, he acquired financial, military, and diplomatic means to advance southwards and consolidate and expand Macedon. According to Diodorus, Philip's military reforms left, and I quote, "armies so numerous and powerful that his son Alexander had no need to apply for allies in his attempts to overthrow Persian supremacy." End quote. Philip revolutionized the Macedonian infantry through the creation of the Macedonian phalanx, the sarissa pike, and by reforming soldiers' armors to increase their mobility. He went from an army of 3,000 to an army of 30,000 by the time of his death. He had created a national army intensely loyal to him and his kingship. It was with this army that Alexander was able to accomplish his goals and prevent the rebellions and defections of those under Macedon hegemony. Alexander didn't really teach his army any new tricks, he just perfected what his father made. Another Diodorus quote to hype up Philly was, For Philip was a king over the Macedonians for 24 years, and having started from the most insignificant beginnings, built up his kingdom to be the greatest of the dominions in Europe, and having taken over Macedonia when she was a slave to the Illyrians, made her mistress of many powerful tribes and states. And these deeds he accomplished not by the favor of fortune, but by his own valor. For King Philip excelled in shrewdness, in the art of war, courage, and brilliance of personality. Also, would just like to mention that he actually competed in the Olympic Games and got first place in the 4-horse chariot race. So unlike Alexander number 1, he was able to get that sweet recognition and win the most prestigious event in the Olympics. But he wasn't the one riding the horses, he just owned them, but a win is a win. Okay, a win is a win. These are just some things that Philip did. If I were to include everything, this video would be 10 years long, and I'm getting tired. Then what about Alexander? Would he have been able to do the things he did without Philip? Well, Alexander was born out of the various marriages that Philip had to create some political stability. In the movie Alexander 2004, they present Alexander's mom as this crazy, deceitful, witch-esque person, which does accurately present the way women are portrayed by ancient historians and ancient authors, as conniving little snakes. This movie was actually really accurate. Although there were some things like the battles that are switched around or taken out of the story, there's also other things that they changed, but other than that, I think it's pretty good. And because it's pretty good, it's a shit movie. It's so boring. They present the battle scenes very well, very well. There must have been so many people involved and so much research that it genuinely impresses me how accurate it is. But because of that, it's boring. But watch it if you want to have a boring time, but want a better understanding of Alexander, because it's pretty good. Anyways, sidetracked. I don't know why I talked about any of that. But well, a quote that you should know is from Plutarch, where she claims that Philip had told Alexander after he tamed his horse, Bucephalus, "My son, seek out a kingdom for yourself equal to your worth. Macedonia does not have enough space for you." Which, debatable. Honestly, I don't buy it. 'Cause what? First of all, Plutarch is not a contemporary source, and I would not call him a historian. It's all retrospective. And whether you believe him or not, it's up to you. But also, he was the one that said Philip had a dream he was going to give birth to a lion, aka Alexander, and that the night before their marriage, a thunderbolt fell upon the womb of Olympias, and that means Alexander is the son of Zeus. He also said within the same passage that a serpent stretched out by the side of Olympias as she slept. So take it as you will. Okay. But young Alexander, son of Philip's 4th marriage, out of 7, he was groomed for leadership by his father practically, as his father hired Aristotle to tutor him. And he was also given regency of Macedon in Philip's absence when he was only 16. Usually succession is the most turbulent times for rulers, but Philip made sure to make the transition as smooth as possible. Is it unfair of me to claim that all of Alexander's greatness was because of his dad? Maybe. I mean, Alexander did play an important role in the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BCE, as 18-year-old Alex boy trampled the Theban forces and helped ensure the grip on Greece. He was also the one who finished Philip's goal of taking revenge against Persia, but was he able to do all of that because he was taught to do so? Because he was given the money and support by his father? His father started everything from scratch, and Alexander simply took up the mantle and continued. Okay, Philip was gonna fight Persia anyways. Too bad he got murdered. Okay, so who knows? We can't know, but yeah, up for debate. And I would also like to mention that there are definitely moments in which Alexander's leadership was questionable, and the loyalty of his army was maintained by the memory of Philip rather than Alexander. There's a lot more that I didn't cover, and I'm still getting tired, and the script is too long, okay? But let me just throw in a fact that made me laugh when I first learned about it. So Alexander, he's a Greek lover, loves all things Greek, probably because of Aristotle. But when he went to Athens, he met the philosopher Diogenes, who, if you don't know, is a funny little guy who walked around naked and lived in a barrel or a bathtub. He was a philosopher, a cynic, just some man. And when Alexander met him, he was like, wow, you're the greatest guy I've ever heard of. I'll give you anything you want. And Diogenes just said, step out of my sunlight. Iconic shit right there. Anyways, next category. What did they accomplish? Yeah, okay, Alexander did conquer Persia and expand the Macedonian Empire to a great degree, like huge. However, what he left behind was a fractured empire that had no idea how to deal or govern its new expansive territory. So, what did he accomplish? A power struggle. He had problems with his soldiers, problems of culture clash, problems with administration of the satrapies. His administrative capabilities while he was alive was already not that good. Okay, and what did Miku accomplish? She stole my heart. Okay, next category, who's more popular? Well, if you look at Google searches, Hatsune Miku has 43.6 million results when you search up the Japanese characters of her name, and 37.5 million for searching Hatsune Miku. While Alexander, on the other hand, has... Damn. 601 million. Well, Hatsune Miku appears on over 100,000 recordings, and her profile on the company website Krypton claims 170,000 uploaded YouTube videos of her. And she got her game, Project Diva and Project Sekai, and a yearly Snow Miku festival for the city of Sapporo. Well, this whole idea also started when someone made a TikTok saying they had a crush on Alexander, and I was like, him? Alexander the Great? Him? So I guess he's alive in the heart of some people as well. And history, and we have a whole classic subject that studies him. Okay, new strategy. What if I search on AO3? Oh my god. 674 works in Alexandros of Macedon? That dark ancient age, dark exclamation mark rulers of Egypt. What is this timeline? Amos first, alive at the same time as Ptolemy first, Soter, alive at the same time as Alexander the Great. Oh, Mark Antony and Augustus Caesar is also alive at the same time? What happens when you are given a magical dagger that can take you back in time? Yonder ancient rulers of Egypt. Oh my god. That's funny. Wait, that's funny. Oh my god. It uploaded so recent too. Oh my god. I wonder how much is for the... $598 works for Alexandros X Hephaestion. Not bad. Oh, there's some that ship him with Bagoas as well. Well, I don't ship him with Bagoas. Is there any ships of him with Bucephalus? I wouldn't be surprised, but anyways, off topic. Okay, how about we test it in a different way? Viewer involvement. This is your time. Ask these questions to your friends and see if they can answer it, and then add that to the tally. Question 1. Do you know who expanded the Macedonian Empire to its full glory? Do you know who is the son of Philip of Macedon? Do you know who commanded the cavalry at the Battle of Chaeronea in 338 BCE? Name a character with blue hair. Next criteria. Who's more iconic? Cultural impact, you know? Like popularity. That means nothing. It only matters of who was more iconic. Well, this is truly a debatable section. I will admit, Alexander's dying words, "to the strongest," and the chaos that assumes afterwards is iconic behavior. Though some might say he was saying Krataros, but who knows? That's kind of iconic. Him naming like 20 cities after himself is also pretty iconic. When his horse died of literally old age at the Hydaspes at the age of 30, he was so devastated and named cities after his horse. That's some king shit right there as well. He's also kind of a loser, but not in a bad way, Like a little pathetic, but not in a bad way. Like in the same way how if you didn't read the Iliad, you would think Achilles is cool, and then you read the Iliad and then you're like, damn, he's heroic, but he's a little baby, which still debatably iconic. Now, Miku, how iconic is she? Her outfit, iconic, recognized global wide in the hearts of so many, like that one guy that married her. She is the moment iconic. You can decide for yourself. Okay, next category. Who has the most figures and artworks? Alexander. Well, coins of Alexander's portraits were minted long after his death, but are difficult to classify and to assess historically, so who knows how many of them are there? He got that pretty cool mosaic in the House of Fawn in Pompeii, I guess. According to Wikimedia, because I don't know how else to find this. Like, I tried JSTOR, I was like, how many sculptures? And JSTOR never pops up anything you want. So I even did the quotation marks, the brackets and everything, but alas. Wikimedia says there's 174 figures/sculptures of Alexander the Great. Only 174? Hatsune Miku has over 1 million artworks featuring her. And these stats are from a 2020 journal article, so it's not up to date. There's probably at least like 10 million more or something. I don't know. For Nendroids alone, there are over 50 different Nendroids of her. And from the website My Figure Collection, they say there's 1,608 figures. And bonus point for Gryffindor, as I have 2 Hatsune Miku figures on my shelf. So, okay. The last few categories are subjective now. I will now be putting my biases within them and my opinions. Think of it as like the bonus stars at the end of Mario Party, okay? Who have I spent more money on? Let's do the calculations. Well, I got 2 extension packs for Hatsune Miku Project Diva, but I also got the game on sale. And my Miku figures were gifts, so in total I spent around $40.69 on Hatsune Miku. For Alexander, well, yeah, let's just say the course cost $600, plus or minus $100. I don't remember how much my tuition was that term, and they don't show you the cost of one course, so Yeah. Okay. Last category. Who's my Google desktop background? So, who does the diadem go to? Who earns the signet ring? Well, that's up to Hatsune Miku.